We do apologize for that technical hitch. You're ready to start here on the bottom line KE. And what are we talking about? You're looking at the state of affairs in the country as far as this Finance Act is concerned. What is our new reality? What should we expect? What are we looking forward to? And also the threats by the Azimio coalition. What exactly does that mean for the nation? Are they going to act on that? Or is it simply hot air? I want to get into this conversation. Engage us on our socials. Satamoi Brian on Twitter at Lookuptv. The hashtag we are using tonight is the bottom line KE. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube. So be sure to send your feedback on those particular social platforms, and I'll be sampling some of it as we continue with the program tonight. I want to introduce my guests. And I'll start with Honorable Justina Wamai, who is joining us via Skype, and she was a 2022 presidential running mate, participated in that particular election. You know her, you've seen her around. And also we have Honorable Sunday Oyolo, who is the Western Kenya UDA coordinator. Thank you so much for joining us. Sunday is not new here. He's been here before.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for making time. And I have, of course, a friend of mine, Robin Karani, who is also is a resident on this particular show. You're a guest. Are you a guest or a resident? Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen, for making time for this conversation here on the bottom line KE. And I'll just like to start with something that I see behind Justina's screen, and that is Inatuhusu, because this conversation, Inatuhusu. Right, let me start with, I think I start with you because Inatuhusu, let's start with you. The president did sign the finance bill, and now it's now it's law. It is an act right now as we speak. From July, from where you sit, what is the new reality for the people of Kenya? Hello, Justina, can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Brian?
Yes, I was starting with you. Yes, I was starting with you on this conversation and just asking you, right now, we have signed it into law. The president did assent to that finance bill. It is now law. From 1st of July, yes, from where you sit, what is the new reality for the people of this country?
I would like Kenyans to know that whether he signed or not, after 2 weeks it would have become a law. So by operation of the law, with time it would have become a law. So the reality would be, of course, high cost of living in terms of transport. If you're a farmer and you want to sell your produce and you need to take it to the market, of course, the fare will be up. And then producers would say that they incurred transport costs in, supplying, if it's a Kisiagi where he lives. So basically, because we use fuel as our source of energy, everything will go up. So I think that explains why Kenyans are bitter. And I saw many Kenyans at Kamkunji. There were many of all divides, all tribes were there as a political statement to the government that they are not happy. They had carried out public participation. A lot of money was spent. Kuria Kimani told us that he went for 39 days, working for 12 hours. And Kenyans feel that money was spent, time was wasted, and no input of what they had proposed was put into consideration. Okay. So the reality is that Kenyans are angrier and more broke.
Okay. Sunday, let me bring you on this particular one. The president says this, I did hear majority leader in the Senate actually tell the president, we've given you now everything that you need to run a country. The president is banking on this particular, this budget to say everything that I had promised the people of Kenya is going to come to life. Has he abandoned the real needs of the people of Kenya from where you sit?
Now, thank you, Amwai. Yes, you may say momentarily, maybe in a short while, there will be increase in transport and others because of the petrol. But with time, a lot of other things will come into play. For example, we also have to look into the gains that are in this finance bill. Okay. Why people were in Kamkunji, or why people seem to be angry, is because it has been hyped and misinformed. out of a lot of these things in the finance bill, over 80% of the finance bill was agreeable across the aisle. In fact, many of the opposition members of parliament debated and passed clause by clause in the third reading. It is only on 2 items that there was a difference. The issue on levy, house levy, and on the fuel. On the fuel, we are not telling wananchi the whole truth, because one, whereas the Kimani group, Kura Kimani group wanted to even our VATable items, so that we are all at 16, because there was no good reason why some are at, everything is at 16, but some are at 8%, like the fuel. So that was one of the major reasons, but also to raise funds, because it's easy to collect funds from the VATable items than these other taxes which can fall through. But we are forgetting that the railway tax or levies were reduced by a whole 1%. We are also forgetting that the import declaration levy tax was actually reduced by another further 1%. And those surrounding, those other things that surround importation of fuel were reduced. So we momentarily, these things are going to show, especially when we have the hustler fund start coming out and
so what you're trying to say is the future is not, you know,
it's not as
you're not
bleak.
doomed.
It's not as bleak.
Okay, Robin, let me come to you. From where you sit and how you interact with people on the ground, what do you make of all this from the 1st of July?
I'm actually in awe listening to my colleague here on 80% of the bill being acceptable, which is something I actually do disagree with in a very high regard. Were there some things that were okay in the finance bill? It's okay to raise funds. I think it's important that Kenyans understand that the only way for the government to raise money is through the finance bill and the budget, budget estimates. Now what happens is we try to put a target on how much we want to collect. Now the Kenya Kwanza's target of what they want to collect from what they have proposed is around 2.4 trillion thereabout, which is very high, ambitious, because no one has ever been able to get to that point. Then they have a budget of 3.6 trillion, meaning that we will have a borrowing of around 1.2 trillion. On top of that, noting that there are very many gaps on government spending. But even as we say that, it is important to also tell Kenyans where we have started and what this finance bill for 2023 has introduced that was not there before. We have had this debate of the VAT on fuel products before. And the Kenya Kwanza government, being in government at that time, was opposed to any tax on fuel. I am part of an organization where they lead the discussion on zero rating of fuel products and products that directly affect the basic needs of people. I do support what they are saying, but you have introduced it to 16% and you say it is the only teething issue and 80% of it is okay. That's actually not true, because number one, we have a new tax of 5% of withholding tax for digital content creation. That is a space for young people. That is where we have been monetizing since COVID began. But because we are speaking of it as young people, it seems as it's a non-issue. That is neither here nor there. We can talk about housing levy and fuel. We cannot talk about digital content. We have so many bad ills in the finance bill as it is, that we can debate over one by one as a clause in parliament, and we can debate them here, but at the end of the day it goes back to what will Mwananchi get from all this. Okay,
Justina, let me bring you this one. According to Sunday, the future is, we are not doomed as a nation. We are not doomed as a people. It might take a while, but in the long run, people are going to feel better. And this is what I've also seen different political leaders, even Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary, saying it will take a little bit of time, maybe 2 years from now, then we start feeling good about this particular economy and everything that has been proposed in this finance bill. What opinion do you hold of that?
I think they're out of touch with the reality, because Brian, they're telling people that to tighten their belts. But we can see that the cabinet is just being extended, it's being enlarged, their convoys are getting bigger. Today there was something that was trending, a watch that was worn by a CS. Kenyans were saying it is worth 1.4 million. So Kenyans are wondering, you're telling us to tighten our belts, but you people are wearing expensive clothes, you're so extravagant. So Kenyans cannot understand when they're told that they're paying. And let me tell Sandy that economies don't just fail in one day. Economies fail over time. And how do you feel the economy is failing, Brian? Profits. If in business, there are no profits. And then you try to cut down maybe costs, like people, you lay off people, so many people go into unemployment. Another issue is that Kenyans cannot buy things. Things that used to buy, disposable income is down. So when the government is trying to tell us that we need to collect taxes, can they first account for what they have? Kenya is behaving, unfortunately, like Kenyans had stopped paying taxes, and now they have come to revive that taxes is the new thing. Actually, Kenyans are bitter. Then they have no problem with paying taxes. Some were saying, we can pay the taxes, but where is the money going? So utilization is the issue. So right now, when they tell us to tighten our belts, it is very ironical in the face of Kenyans. And again, our economy as it is, Kenyans are having issues with bread and butter issues. And then Kenyans are also leaving their cars at home, taking matatus. And then now you even make matatu people to increase fare. In my opinion, this government is out of touch with reality, and it is not the government that was campaigning. I must say that they have forgotten where they came from. And today something was trending about the president. The president was saying, hatutaongeza ushuru. So what is this that has made him change his stand now? And the Kenyans are just the same Kenyans. The economy is still the same economy that was saying imezorota. So why is he pushing Kenyans further into poverty?
Okay, so Sunday, you deal with the Kenya Kwanza, at close range. I want to believe that. And this, what she's raising, is a very important point in regards to the promises that were made vis-a-vis what is being practiced at this particular moment. Because a lot of Kenyans, and also just to go back when we had this finance bill actually being debated across the country, and a survey was done, and 95% of people say they did not agree with it. And that is according to that particular survey. Just want to do that, and not saying that it's all Kenyans that say that. But so does the government feel the need of the people? Is it in touch with the realities of Kenyans to the ground at this particular time?
This government campaigned on the platform of better, bottom-up economic transformational agenda. We, before election, and Justina will tell you, it was averred even by the World Bank and the IMF that whoever would take this was going to take over from Uhuru, whether it was going to be Raila, or Wajakoya and Justina, or Ruto, whoever was going to take over, it was going to take us not more than 2 years to break even. It was said. That was a fact even before, if you Google everywhere. Secondly, because of this agenda that we have, on the budget, Justina may not be completely right, because we have not increased taxes, we have reorganized taxation. If you look at the taxation measures, like for example, the LPG gas, we have now brought it down. Why? Because we want, first of all, as we save the forest, we engender the kitchen and the space of women. And in all that, we have reduced the cost. That thereby, now even reducing demand on kerosene and others. There are many other things, like for example, there is money now being put in the Hustler Fund. Over 8 billion is now put in the Hustler Fund through the individuals and the groups and the circles. We are now growing the cooperative movement, which actually had died during Uhuru's time. It is also wrong for even my brother to say that when we were in government. He is also, he remembers, and I know he has this memory, that since 2018, the group that Uhuru called Tanga Tanga was not in government. It was a handshake government between Uhuru and Raila, and many things happened.
Maybe that is debatable, because somebody
Now,
could argue and say,
just a reminder,
how exactly do you define somebody who is in government?
You may want to refer to many others, because even then, the parliament leadership changed. And we had people like Wanga come into the Committee of Finance as chair, actually. She chaired the Committee of Finance, and many things were consultative between Mbadi and Kimunya, because it changed all over sudden. So the agenda changed in 2018. We have we must save this country, because the president has said, either we continue when you are in the hole. The solution is not to continue digging.
Okay,
to stop digging.
Because let me get you right. On this particular issue that Kenyans are very concerned, especially with the 16% VAT on fuel. From where you sit, do you feel it is not going to be impactful when it comes to raising the cost of living?
What we are saying is, first of all, Justina has talked about increasing the purchase power. You get? So that there is enough disposable income for people to be able to purchase. That's where we are. We are saying, let's put money in the house levy, so that we have many more young people and people employed. We are saying, let's put tax on importation of furniture, on importation of iron and any building material. Why? So that the companies and the local manufacturing sector can be able to now absorb many more people. We are saying, let's put taxes on importation of fish and omena from China. Why? Because now the farmer can have a fish pond, and Kisumu can grow, can sell more fish to the market.
Now, that is maybe long term if you look at it from that particular
immediate
angle.
Those are immediate.
But the issue right now is the cost of living, and that is what so many people are concerned about. If you look at what is happening at Kamukunji, it is basically the cost of living. Where do we go from this particular point as a nation?
Okay, I want to begin here. I am a proud member of Jubilee Party. I believe I was in the previous government. My party leader, not the acting, my party leader is currently in Angola, leading talks for DRC Congo.
Okay.
But that is neither here nor there. What I'm trying to speak to Kenyans about is, what is this tax thing all about? So these people came into government on the promise that what we were collecting as Jubilee government was not enough, and we were borrowing so much that our debt was ballooning in a crazy way. Okay. And it is rightful for them to say that. We're in a democratic space, so to speak. So they got into the power with the belief that this beta that they keep talking about was supposed to expand our tax base. What that means is, we have over 19 million adult Kenyans in Kenya who should ordinarily be paying taxes. We only have about 4 million people registered on iTax. Of the 4 million, half of them do nil returns, what they are doing tonight and have been doing. So they came to government with the promise that we will expand this base, and it will be so that we do not tax you more. We encompass more people, so that we pay less, but we will, in actual sense, we'll have collected more. But what are we seeing from the finance bill? Instead of tapping on this non-existent or people who have not been engaging in paying taxes, they are dealing with the ones who have been in the system for long. They're increasing pay. They are calling for VAT, which obviously we have all been paying to. So they have done nothing actually to increase the tax base, but to rather try and increase the collection overall from the people who are already in the system. Okay. You can ask them about how many more people have they gotten into the tax bracket during their period in government. How many more people have they registered to KRA, have collected KRA?
That's a very good question, even before you go to justice. you know, again, we are talking about a government that has been in, this is the first budget, hardly 9 months.
That is
Actually, by the way, you know, even if you are married today, my brother, and this woman is willing to give you children, it must be after 9 months. There is no miracle in between. Second, then you want to pursue a
Zambia who has been in government for only 11 months.
No.
And he has managed to bring down the cost of government expenditure by 40%. In 11 months, he has managed
the case in fact, now he has said very well, because I left him in Jubilee. And I can tell you, the case...
You guys were together in Jubilee?
The case, now that he says in Jubilee, I left him behind. The case of Zambia and the case of Kenya differ. The circumstances are different. We are coming into government that is broke. We are coming into government that has borrowed everywhere. Dick, Tom, and Harry. Everywhere. We are coming into government, first of all...
It is the same
No,
exactly
let me tell you. First of all, because when we came in fact, even the budget to run is a problem, and yet we have said we have minimized, because we are not borrowing more than 30 billion. A half of what Uhuru has borrowed. He had gotten to 1.1 trillion. And we are saying we must reduce, and we are going to reduce in the next budget. We want to go to less than 400. Kenyans must support their own economy, and Kenyans must support their own development. And Kenyans, you see, the promises we gave Amwai, it was not thought that it was going to be paid.
No, that was a political.
By Ruto and Gachagwa's salary. It was the Kenyans paying taxes to achieve what we must achieve,
but the
and stop the
promise
borrowing.
that was made back then wasn't that you're going to make you pay for this as you break your backs at the same time.
Of course, through taxation. It has to be through taxation.
Justina,
we were asking for power to tax. Authority to tax.
Justina,
that's what we were asking. That's what Wajakoya and Justina were asking, that Kenyans give them authority to tax.
Okay, Justina, if by any chance we gave you the opportunity to lead this country, will we be going through the same thing?
First, I need to clarify something, because we are declaring interest. I am neither in Kenya Kwanza or Azimio or Jubilee. I represent people called Inatuhusu, and the one Kenyans and the two who are sitting there to tell the party leaders that 8 million Kenyans did not vote. And I need to say this before I answer the question Brian you've asked me. Kenya Kwanza is saying that they have given us Hustler Fund. Sunday, do you know, last week, an infrastructure bond was floated at 16% return. People are selling their shares from NSC, which is already fragile, which is not even doing well, to buy infrastructure bonds. Sunday, do you know, when you tell us about gas, I asked my gas guy, kama gas ya Ruto imefika ground. No one has any idea about that gas. And stop forcing us that unga is cheap. We are telling you the reality on the ground. Unga is not 150 shillings. So don't make us think like you people have an alternative shop and you are buying in the wrong shop. Kubali ya kwamba, you people are just lying to Kenya. Accept that you're human and you've made a mistake. On the issue of housing levy and people are going to get jobs. On Friday, DP said that hakuna kazi, so waende mjengo. JKUAT was graduating microbiology. Tell me where the microbiologist comes in na kazi ya mjengo kind. But even you, Robin, you're saying that these people have not performed. But Jubilee has gotten us here. Why is Sakaja demolishing the Green Park? It was a vendor-driven project. It was budgeted for action. People ate out of it. Now Sakaja wants to leave it. Maybe wants to bring in another vendor-driven project. So you people are not genuine. But let me say this, Brian, would we be having the same problem? I don't know what people would have thought, because as you bought that party, I don't to quote it for Sana Lafta. But if things were going well, if things had gone well, this would have been the second season of harvesting industrial hemp. So at least we'll have industrialization, we'll have farmers on the ground, we'll have production and export. So probably we'll be having more money. Instead of taxing the net, we'll be having more people who we are taxing from. And it's about time. Sunday, you can even pass to your party leadership and Robbie. The fact that I have taken a petition to the National Assembly to decriminalize industrial hemp, I realized marijuana brought a lot of issues. So industrial hemp has no levy and can be a raw material that grows in 4 months and can continue industrialization. So we need to move out of the box and create more opportunities to tax more Kenyans and have them eat the debt.
Okay.
I support this thinking out of the box. That is one way. You see, if Justina and his running mate were to come to power, they were actually going to give us bangi. We are now giving people housing project that is targeting 1 million young people, engineers who have come out of universities, architects, mason, watoto wale wanatoka ndani ya TVETs. We are giving them jobs to pipe all over. And we are also doing the same to the industries. We are saying the industries now that are doing cement, they are going to do double, triple. Those who are doing iron ore and other material that are for building, they are going to do that locally. If you bring from abroad, mbao or seats that are already made, you are going to pay through the nose. So we are deterring them to do it. About unga, when people that were related before to my sister, before she crossed the Rubicon, before she became wiser, those guys, when they were carrying sufrias on their head, we were picking fertilizer. And I can tell you, you know my village. I've just come back from home. When you called me last time, I was at home. I was actually eating fresh maize and fresh beans. And it is all over Western, in the bread basket. My issues of food is now going to be the unga. Unga is coming down. There is no miracle that brings unga down, by the way. The only miracle is still the ground.
This is unga that had been announced. What the government said, the last I checked, it was 159, and they said from that particular point you are going to see reduction. But what you've seen is actually an increase.
Let me explain that before you
right now
go to my brother.
At 230.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
What happened is Uhuru government did subsidy arrangement with millers. Millers who were of course allied to them. When this government came in, it is decided that they were not going to be given money, but they were going to be given the cheats to be able to import duty-free from wherever. They decided that they were not going to import until they are paid the subsidy. Subsidy money, which is in question. That's why Justina is saying, we are where we are because of the Jubilee and the handshake.
Okay, we can still go back to the Jubilee and all that, but that's a question I'm actually putting to you. They 159.
It was not able to do. I'm saying why this was not able to be done is because of these guys sabotaging from inside. The same people who are millers then want to be, they got the papers from Ministry of Agriculture to import duty free. They didn't go. You heard Linturi say it. They didn't import. Why? Because they wanted to force this government to give them the money, the subsidy money payment for money that made the never. The same thing is also on the fuel. The same thing is also on the fuel.
Okay.
The same thing on the fuel. They are now demanding of this government over 60 billion of subsidy money that they purportedly brought in fuel, which never came.
Okay, let me come to you, Robin. What's your take?
Okay, I feel I will require some more time to react to most of the things they have said. But let me start by this. I have always insisted that we need to be very honest with Kenyans. On this show and everywhere I go, that it is good to always be honest with Kenyans and tell them what is on the ground. Now, what we have are two governments that took two different approaches to how they run the country. Jubilee's government was talking of something called big push investment. What we mean by big push investment is that we can borrow and achieve big infrastructure within a short period of time and use the returns that come from that good infrastructure to fund us in the long run. So what they have been talking about, they have talked about the Green Park. If I can remind Justina, the first thing that Sakaja did, the first fight that Sakaja had when he got into power was with Rigathi Gachagua over that Green Park, over his his move to try and move the matatus to Green Park. That has been a problem since before. And it has been a problem of cartels and trying to move motorists from town and moving the businesses out of town. But I will not address that. I wanted to go back to what we have come back to. Everything has been done, everything that is happening because of Uhuru's government and Jubilee's government. Uhuru's government gave us 3 stimulus packages during the COVID period. Once the Kenya Kwanza government got into power, the first 2 days they were at KCB, and we were back to having charges for M-Pesa transactions. We were back to having charges on internet banking. Within the first month, they had already started collecting that. That was something that was done by the Jubilee government to caution Kenyans. They removed that. The second thing they removed Kazi Mtaani, and they told the young people that they are going to make them plant trees, which has not been done up to date. Young people are in the streets of Nairobi right now engaging in crime. And the reaction from the crowd has been, you people left these young people to be idle around here, and now you are blaming them and calling them drunkards and marijuana smokers just because they had something that was engaging them that they do not do anymore. And that project was done by the Jubilee government, and you removed that. But the problems you're facing are because of that Jubilee government. Now, I come back to what he has been speaking about, the millers and the subsidy. The project for the subsidy was meant to caution the consumer. And they came in as a government that talked of being responsible, and they said we need to focus on subsidizing production and not consumption. And we are going to the farmers, and we are going to give them fertilizer. The president stood and said by next Monday we will have fertilizer here going at 2,500. The fertilizer that came to Kenya was written not for sale, but they are still selling it. Right. I will not go to
the fertilizer.
That. But let me just finish on what on my school of thought here. What I am trying to point out to is all this we have been speaking about the Jubilee government and borrowing. We can actually point to projects by that Jubilee government. What he is not telling Kenyans right here is we are taxing you. We cannot show you a project that we want to focus on. We have stopped all the other projects.
Like I said, you cannot show a project in 9 months. Actually, not even 9 months, because
what you're asking for is more time.
Right now, we have asked for a finance bill. This is the first finance bill. Okay. This is the first taxation. This is the money.
When should we start holding you to account and say, okay? Just
from July 1st. That's what Justina told you. She told you that in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks' time, it comes to. Now it's a week. From July 1st, anza kuzungumza mambo ya hii serikali. So right now we've been eating kiporo. And another thing you must remember before you go to Justin, there is something, a lie that you must dissuade. Immediately we got into office. Okay, before that, what this government was doing, the government was doing then, was borrowing locally and abroad. And most of the money borrowed locally from the treasury bonds and what have you were short stints. All of them successively maturing. When we came into it, was like a trap, and that's why the IMF and World Bank warned us before. When whoever comes into power, you will spend more time, about 2 years, trying to repay and trying to seal them. And that is the problem that we are now finding ourselves. That's why even the other day we had to delay, because the president said, even with the devolution money and even with the salaries, we will delay first.
Depending on who you ask, people will argue differently in this delay.
Domestic borrowing is bad.
But
why have you increased
let me come to you,
we
Justina.
are not.
Kindly, let me come to you, Justina. As I wind up with this conversation, listen, we are running out of time, and I wish we had more time. But today we saw the opposition actually take to Kamukunji. A lot of people were there, and this is Raila Odinga speaking, talking of civil disobedience to deny government taxes. And he says, there is no other option left. We must fight. We are going to fight until the Finance Act is repealed. We will adopt a series of acts of civil disobedience to force this regime to recognize that we, the people, as supreme. And he went ahead to call on Kenyans to do quite a number of things, including carpooling, walking to work, vehicles, actually matatus, to double carrying capacity. And, also called on police officers to be very lenient with matatu owners that carry double, capacity in regards to that, just to, make sure that the government feels the people on the ground. Is this move bound to work, or is it, we are hitting a dead end?
Very quickly, I want to tell Sunday that we need to speak the truth. Sunday, when you said that we had deaths, Eurobond 1, Eurobond 2 was taken in 2014. When the marriage between Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto was blossoming. So don't lie to us.
Who was the president?
Happening. Needless to say, Brian, on the issue of azimio, I see that Kenya Kwanza is falling into the trap of azimio. Because azimio are really praying that Kenya Kwanza will not listen to them in Bunge. It has happened. Now I'm seeing that the bipartisan group is saying if azimio does not involve themselves, they will select the IEBC people themselves. They are falling into the trap of azimio, and they are strengthening azimio. So the people who have the burden, duty of care, of peace, duty of care of political stability is Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza, in as much as you have numbers, remember azimio wants you people to fail. So don't fall into their trap. And I want to remind you that you may do so much economically, but Kibaki has always carried the tag that in 2007, the mess happened under his watch. So you're the one who should be the bigger brother in this case. Don't chase them, because that is what Azimio wants you to do. They are playing the same politics you played, of politics of being a victim. And now itakuja kuwaramba. So I think the person who's going to get affected is the common mwananchi, because even if you're told all these things to disobey, to sing songs, to do what, serikali will already have taxed Kenyans, and the purchasing power will be down. So all these people will be having ego issues, but the common mwananchi is the one who's going to get hurt. And I'm afraid that on July 7th, they may be maandamano, loss of property, loss of life. So kindly Kenya Kwanza, you owe us duty of care. Please, achaneni na kiburi. Just be the bigger person, have the conversation, but remember that the ordinary mwananchi is suffering. Our issue now is bread and butter. These are issues of nyumba. We will sort them when we are already full.
Okay. All right, as we wind up, just your comments on this.
One is that whatever was announced in Kamkunji is not here. Why we are now converting the taxing system and putting emphasis on vertable items is that the collection of revenue shall be at the source. Secondly, Justina has said all good things, but she directed the advice to the wrong people. If these are the people who are causing chaos and violence, she should actually be advising the people who are causing violence to shun. Thirdly, when we go into competitive politics, we are competing on different policy, like what my brother said. We have our policies, we have our governance structure, and we have our plan to execute. So the Azimio are better off sitting aside first of all. Give us time to see out of this implementation of the first budget what will happen. And I can tell you, Brian, by the next time you are inviting us here, Kenyans will have seen what will have gone through. Okay, so what Justina cannot tell us to wait, and yet we have a lot of young people out here without jobs. We want them to get employment, and one of the major area of employment will be the housing. And the manufacturing sector will grow, the transport sector will grow because of this housing only. So that's why we support that this housing, we must let it go, continue, and money pumped in so that our young people can get jobs.
I'm very happy that people in the, anybody that has to do with construction is going to get a job out of this housing. But, there's people that also do media. and this industry is, you know,
Advertisement of the material.
really getting it, being hit left, right, and center. But and people are closing down. So I don't know when it comes to this
It is
employment, because we also,
all-encompassing.
you know, have a lot of people who are
It
graduating.
is all encompassing.
All right, let me come to you, Robin, as we wind up on this conversation. What's your final remarks at the bottom line?
I want first to dissuade a fact that Azimio is wishing for Kenya Kwanza to fail. We are not wishing for their failure. In fact, we know that if they fail the whole of Kenya. So we are hopeful that they might do something. But what we are saying is, what we are seeing from what they are doing is we are not heading the right way. I will give them just a small example and a small touch-up to go and do assignment on. Before Uhuru Kenyatta left this government, he created a port in Lamu. That port was supposed to be a transshipment port. What we mean by transshipment port is that it can be used as a stage or a stopping point to the next destination. Now, moving from the most busiest port in the world in terms of export is Shanghai, China. The most busiest port in terms of import is Rotterdam, Netherlands. The distance from China to Netherlands is 12,000 nautical miles. But the distance from Lamu to Netherlands is 6,000. That means that a ship from Lamu will go to Netherlands and come back to Lamu before the ship from China gets to Netherlands. Now, listen. I'm just giving you the example. I'm giving you an assignment to do. Right now, what we are hearing of Lamu is attacks on a daily. I come from Lamu. I'm speaking of Lamu because I'm speaking from a very emotional point. And my assignment to you guys is, what would you be doing different with what has been brought, rather than just rubbishing everything that was done by the previous government and sitting on potential riches.
You know, if you allow that to go, it will be a misinformation. Right now, in fact, under this government, the president has visited Lamu not twice, not thrice, in fact, more than 3 times since election. Right now, we are doing a lot of animals through Lamu alone. Already very busy. I stay at Shela, by the way, and I see that every day. Ask Madam Marubu. We'll tell you the things that are happening, and it is happening. And Lamu is very busy. And I like your point, yes. But Lamu right now is very busy and very strategic.
Okay.
We are now finishing the road that Uhuru mapped out. We are doing it. The road through the Boni Forest.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm really out of time. It is 10:31. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Justina Omai joining us via Skype. Thank you so much, Justina, for making time for this conversation here. I wish we had more time, and maybe just, conversations about this country cannot be limited, but TV is TV. We have to do that. Thank you. And Honorable Sunday Oyolo for making time for this conversation tonight. Also, thank you for your insights. And Robin Karani, thank you once again. All right, I want to take your feedback here. James Kinyo says, this lady Justina should be given a chance in governance. She has the interest of a regular Kenyan at heart. Kenya is doomed. Kama ni hawa wabuda wako in power, something like that. Yes. Okay, Sally says, by the way, Sally said, I say hi to both of you. A beauty with brains, this lady should and must be in government, principled and focused, but hashtag inatuhusu. Do you want to be in government, this government? If given a chance, would you? Somebody says you should be in government. If given a chance, would you be in government?
For me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there is so much going wrong, including NHIF. Wacha tutatafuta serikali another day.
You come and make them right, and we are poaching you soon.
So they are eyeing you, so they'll be poaching you soon. Okay, our old dictator leaders have no idea how industrial hemp is the future. Sad that Professor Wajakoya was a decoy for Azimio. Justina has a point. Good job. All right, let me take one more here. One more? I think just a moment before. Promise my viewers that I'm going to read their feedback. I can't go home without doing that. Okay, so this one, why is it running away? Just a moment. Loving the insightful discussion. Evidently, kutetea Kenya Kwanza ni ngumu. They seemingly operate in utopia, openly displaying their arrogance with respect to the promises pledged for the common mwananchi benefit. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I don't agree. Let me tell you, by the way.
Okay.
Even for operation, even if kama una kidonda kwa tumbo, operation itakuwa painful.
Okay, sawa.
Lakini utapona.
Sawa. Okay, Quincy Akado says watching from Nairobi. Mtoto wa Mariam says waiting for tonight's debate. Robbie Rush and Justina Wamai on the same bench. I only expect the best on economic affairs, championing assessment of Kenya's current political state and leadership. I hope you got what you were looking forward to. Then looking forward to tonight's discussion. Great panel right there. Waheshimiwa Justina Wamai and Sunday itakuwa moto because inatuhusu sote. Thank you so much for your feedback here on the Bottom Line KE. Do have yourselves a lovely night, and let's do this again next Tuesday when we still have a chance to do this. My name is Brian Amwai. Do have yourselves a lovely night. Goodbye.